Chapter 29. Thea still did not know that Malcolm's little classroom had continued to enroll students, and that her father had lied to her in order to find an excuse for her injury. She was walking steadily on the mountain road. That beautiful lady with long, straight black hair really knew how to find a place. This place was even more remote than the previous grove. Fortunately, Thea had woken up an hour earlier, or else she would have been late. She observed the surrounding environment. The vegetation was lush, and the sound of running water could be heard in the distance. This place could be described as picturesque. It seemed that it took a lot of effort to find this place in the vicinity of a heavy industrial city like Star City, which had been tormented by the Quinn family's steel industry. Compared to the dark grove of Old Ma, this place was much more pleasing to the eye. She had passed the entrance exam and entered a new class, right? Could this be the legendary Junior Ascension? She expanded her perception to the maximum and soon found that the lady was standing not far away, with her back facing Thea. Madame Shiva had her hands behind her back, and her black waist-length hair was like a lingering cloud being blown by the wind in the valley. For a moment, Thea, who was also a girl, was a little dazed. But she was immediately awakened by Madame Shiva's imposing and elegant manner. She recited a poem in Chinese with a strange accent. The white sun shines on the mountain, plop. Thea almost lost her footing and fell down. In such a good environment, she should have recited something like, "Smoke locks the willows on the pond," or something. Why did she recite a poem that even elementary school students knew? "Your cold temperament and long hair are all gone, you know." She lowered her eyes and replied in Chinese, "The yellow river flows into the sea." Yo, little Thea, I didn't expect you to know Chinese. Amazing. Madame Shiva did not expect her to know Chinese. It was as if a wanderer who had been away from home for many years had returned to her hometown. Thea resisted the urge to give her a tongue twister and nodded solemnly. She meant that they should stop talking nonsense and start the class officially. Madame Shiva was very satisfied with her expression. She was neither arrogant nor rash. She was unfazed by favor or humiliation. What an interesting little girl. Since you are learning from me, we are fated to meet. You know my name. You seem to be proficient in Chinese. That's great. I am from China. My Chinese name is Sandra Wushan. Shiva is a nickname given to me by the Indians. The woman with long black hair introduced herself calmly. However, her words shocked Thea. What kind of Chinese name was that? Call the local police here. You were too irresponsible during the registration. Your bonus for that month will be deducted. Thea decided to ignore this so-called Chinese name. In the future, she would just call her Madame Shiva. It was catchy and easy to remember. It was similar to her name, which was also of the Shi generation. Madame Shiva did not know that she was complaining in her heart. She said calmly, "I saw your fight last night. I have to say that you are very smart to be able to defeat someone stronger than you. However, it is far from enough. You didn't give full play to your advantages. Do you know where your advantages are?" Thea would not have been able to answer this question half a year ago. However, she was aware of her own abnormalities now. My perception? But I think I have done my best. Please teach me. Very good. You can recognize your own strengths and weaknesses. You have surpassed 90% of the people in the world. I appreciate you more and more. She gave Thea a smile, but it was a cold smile. Perception. Black Arrow should have told you about it. I will tell you again with my own experience. Everyone has perception, more or less. Animals in the natural world can predict earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. They all rely on the early warning of perception. However, human beings live in this chaotic environment. Everyone's perception has been degraded to varying degrees. Only by returning to nature can one realize this talent again. Thea nodded. Old Ma had said something similar, but it could also be that he repeated the ninja master's words to her. He was more focused on returning to himself, while Shiva emphasized returning to nature. This might be the fundamental difference between the two martial arts masters. Different roads lead to the same destination. No one was completely correct. However, compared to the ninja masters so-called seeking a breakthrough in fighting, Madame Shiva's words were undoubtedly more suitable for her. Today's lesson will not teach you actual combat. I hope you can take the first step of returning to nature. Feel the nature and stand on my side. Thea obediently stood at her original position. The first thing she felt was that the wind was very strong here. Would she be blown into the valley? Her current weight was just 50 kilograms. Close your eyes and carefully feel the sound of the wind. Madame Shiva took out a cloth and wrapped her eyes. The sound of the wind? Once people lost their light, they would immediately fall into chaos. Thea took a while to react. The training had already begun. She listened attentively for a while. South wind, about level 3. The wind speed is at most level 4. Others, there are some birds, but I can't tell what kind of birds they are. Not bad. Your aptitude is indeed extraordinary. I divided the perceptual training into 4 stages. The first stage, listening to the wind. The second stage, singing birds. Now we are entering the third stage, singing insects. Now, sit down and take off your clothes. What did this mean? Why did she have to take off her clothes? Was she going to practice some kind of evil art? Thea's mind automatically flashed with the scene of Yang Guo and Xiao Longnu practicing in the flowers. Would a Yin Jiping jump out later? Don't be in a daze. Hurry up and take it off. Shiva didn't know that she was in a dilemma and urged her. Anyway, this person was also a woman. Take it off. She took off her coat with trembling hands. Why are you so shy? Are you more conservative than Asians? Shiva saw that her hands were trembling as if she had Parkinson's disease. She was a little curious. You are prejudiced. What's wrong with Asians? This is a personality problem. Sia kept her eyes closed and did not say anything. Now, she could not help but retort. Asians also had their bold and unrestrained side, especially those young girls from the Foot Basin country. What was there to write about their bodies? It had nothing to do with the region. Madame Shiva's cold face was amused for the first time. Okay. A personality problem. Hey, I didn't ask you to take off your underwear, did I? What? Why didn't you say so earlier? Thea quickly put it back on. This woman looked serious, but she was actually a bad girl. At this time, Thea missed her father's lessons in the woods. Although it was dark, the heart was bright. Although there were birds and flowers, it was easy to be led astray. After this unexpected episode, the serious atmosphere between the two disappeared. Instead, there was a sense of intimacy. Madame Shiva didn't continue to stand like a javelin. She found a tree stump and sat down to watch from afar. It was so cold. She took off her coat and covered her eyes. When the wind blew, the coolness from her skin immediately washed away her mental perception. Her brain was full of cold signals. She couldn't feel the chirping of insects or birds anymore. Chapter 30. Although her body was freezing, her mind was becoming clearer and clearer. No matter how low her IQ was, she could still understand the purpose of this training. She had always thought that she had trained her perception well, but today, she had shown her true form under external stimulation. Would the same situation happen the next time she was attacked by external interference? Her foundation was still not solid enough. After understanding the purpose of this training, Thea adjusted her attitude. Since she was a woman, she would not lose anything if she looked at her. She would just treat it as if she was at the beach. She tried her best not to think about the cold wind blowing on her skin and focused on exploring her surroundings. She did not know if it was because she was numb from the cold or because she had improved, but she could vaguely feel that her surroundings had quietened down. The intermittent chirping of birds became clearer. After some time, she heard Madame Shiva's voice. Catch! A gust of wind blew. Thea determined the direction and caught it. It seemed to be a wooden stick. Come, let's see how much you understand. Attack me. Thea had a general understanding of this unconventional training method. She did not dare to take off her blindfold as she was afraid that the mood she maintained would disappear. She closed her eyes to block out the noise around her and tried to sense her position. She slowly approached her. When she felt that she was only 3 steps away, she fiercely struck her with the stick. As expected, Madame Shiva blocked the strike and hit her left shoulder with a backhand. Not bad, you can be faster. There are still flaws on your left side. Again. Slap. Your right hand is too high. Again. Slap. Slap. Move faster. Again. This woman was too violent. Thea gritted her teeth in hatred. She felt that she had never been beaten so many times in her life. The pride she had when she fought Malcolm to a draw was gone in an instant. However, for the sake of her path of self-improvement, she tried her best to persevere and constantly adjusted her attacking posture. After being beaten for an unknown period of time, Madame Shiva's voice sounded like it came from heaven. That's all for today. Take off your blindfold. I'll apply medicine for you. Leaning on the baton, he slowly pulled down his blindfold. It was as if he had returned from hell to the mortal world. For a moment, he felt that his surroundings were so beautiful. In anime and movies, the blind swordsmen would all appear extremely powerful. Their poses were cool and handsome, but it was all a lie. Massage was the only way out for the blind. Why would he practice swordsmanship for no reason? He touched his body. There were bruises all over his body, and he was numb. He did not feel cold. He felt pain everywhere, and there was no place that did not hurt. This elementary class was much more difficult than the previous ones. In order to stand out, what else could he do? He had to persevere. Sit tight, I'll apply some medicine for you. While she was in a daze, she saw Madame Shiva pouring some medicine into her hands. She rubbed her hands together and was about to apply it on her shoulders. You. What are you doing? Thea didn't know why she was so nervous. She only felt that she should stop her. I'm applying medicine for you. You can't apply it on many parts of your body. Stop talking nonsense and behave yourself. Shiva didn't know why this little girl was always so shy. She just thought that the two of them were not familiar with each other, so she didn't care. Numb and hot, Thea only felt that her hands were magical. They kept moving around her body, as if there were thousands of ants running through her blood vessels and bones. It would be a lie to say that she was uncomfortable, but she really felt embarrassed. She suppressed the pleasure in her heart and was afraid that she would cry out. Her little face was red. After applying the ointment all over her body and patting it, Thea was already sweating profusely. She didn't know if this was the process in the original tutorial or the result of her imagination. Her skin's sensitivity to the environment had greatly improved. It was like a cicada sensing the wind before the wind blew. Your progress is much faster than I expected. Let's not practice perception today. Come and fight with me. Shiva massaged Thea for a while. She was also a little hot. She felt that today's teaching mission was almost completed. She wanted to see how much Thea's combat skills had improved. Thea didn't mind. Although the hope was slim, she might be able to take revenge for the beating just now. Now that her whole body was hot, she didn't rush to put on her coat. She picked up the stick and rushed forward. The two girls quickly stood up fiercely. Thea was suppressing a wicked fire in her heart. She felt that her whole body was full of strength. Using this mysterious feeling, she used the moves that she used in the past. For a moment, Madame Shiva, who was unprepared, kept retreating. This is so good. Thea Quinn, you are qualified to be my opponent. Madame Shiva jumped out of the circle. She took off the long windbreaker on her body, revealing the tight red vest inside. The streamlined muscles on her arms faintly bulged. Her flat stomach also showed a beautiful mermaid's line. It turned out that when Madame Shiva was serious, she was worthy of her identity as the world's best assassin or the world's best martial artist. Thea relied on the momentum at the beginning to attack fiercely. Soon, she was defeated by exquisite martial arts and skillful skills. Although she kept thinking, looking for opportunities to counterattack. In a short time, she changed 3 sets of swordsmanship and 2 sets of stick techniques. However, they were all easily defeated by Madame Shiva. Let's fight barehanded. Thea threw the stick far away. She still didn't practice enough weapon fighting. In order to vent her anger, she could only fight barehanded. She was afraid that Madame Shiva would not cooperate, so she tried to provoke her by throwing out her weapon in advance. She thought that Madame Shiva would not be fooled by her arrogance. As she expected, Madame Shiva threw her weapon away. However, 10 seconds later, Thea regretted it so much that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. The two of them could still fight a few rounds with weapons, but barehanded fighting was not at the same level. Madame Shiva's barehanded fighting was much better. Although Thea tried her best to persevere, she knew that she could not lose, or at least, she could not lose too badly. However, under the huge gap in strength, she was still pressed to the ground. Madame Shiva's fists were like lightning, rapidly throwing out countless punches in front of Thea's eyes. Obviously, she was holding back. If all these punches landed on Thea's face, Thea could go to Korea for plastic surgery. But why did this scene look so much like the scene of a martial artist fighting a Japanese soldier? She was lying on the ground with her arms and legs spread out. It looked like the Japanese soldier who was beaten up. Thea blurted out, "Wing Chun. Little Thea, you have good taste. Do you want to learn?" Lady Shiva had already returned to her normal state from her battle state. Although her tone was still cold, she was no longer as unapproachable towards Thea as she was at the start. Instead, there was a hint of ridicule in her tone. Wing Chun also existed in this world. Come to think of it, it did exist. Oliver had once hit a wooden dummy with a loud bang. Why wouldn't she learn? In this world where there was no internal energy or qigong, it was crucial to find a set of boxing that was suitable for her.